But anyway, so the essential service where we work on a whole host of issues. Right now I work at the VA and we're trying to kick the backlog of veterans that are dying because they're not getting health insurance and so and healthcare that they need. They're supposed to be able to get that. And yeah, so lots of important stuff happening there. If you're looking for a job, we are hiring. Okay, done with that. Cool. So what are we here to talk about today? So the first thing, primarily, what I'm talking about here today is using data science to fight slavery, modern day slavery. So it's going to be a little bit depressing. Hope you're all ready to be sad. And this is the organization I started. It's a small website right now. If you'd love to help with that, if you're a web designer, you can totally do that. We also have Slack. It's pretty active. People try to hang on that a lot. We also have a GitHub. I don't know if the internet's going to let me connect to it, but I'm going to try right now. What? Oh yeah, no, it's not going to work. I was wondering if no, that's cool. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I don't get Wi-Fi on my computer, so I have to link it to my phone. It's silly. Anyway, so this is the organization we started. We only have one project up here right now, which is basically what I'm going to be demoing for you right now with a little bit of explanation. Also, the GitHub for the talk is over here, so if you want to follow along, ask questions or anything after the talk, this is where it is, just my GitHub / data science West 2015. Anyway, so let's go back into the slides. All right, so now we get that out of the way. All right, so we're going to talk about slavery a little bit. I'm going to describe the definition of human trafficking, and then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to go through one of the systems they built, specifically the one that's up on GitHub. Sound cool? Everyone happy with that? Yeah, all right. So, slavery sucks. It's like the worst thing ever, and personally it made me like sad as all hell. And so I decided, all right, whatever, I'm going to do something about it. There are two types of slavery that we're primarily interested in because we're going to be talking about sex trafficking today. There's a whole bunch of types of trafficking. There's sex trafficking, labor trafficking, bond servitude, organ trafficking, which is exactly what it sounds like. People literally get stolen and their organs get taken out of their body and they get put into basically a factory of organ taking. It's really terrible. And there's a few other things. Basically, black market for organs are going through that. Okay, so now that they're all as sad as possible, sorry about that. So we're going to talk about something just as bad, just to keep things on that foot. So anyway, so if a person is kidnapped and forced into sex slavery, that's one type of sex slavery. The other type of sex slavery is when one is manipulated into becoming a sex slave. And typically how this happens is someone is like coerced and they don't realize they're a sex slave until much later. So typically like you have a 12 or 13-year-old girl and like a 37-year-old man, and the 12-year-old girl is convinced that she loves the 43 or 47-year-old man, and through him, and horrible things happen and ensue. Basically, the first type of slavery, sex slavery, is really easy to get out of. It's usually easy to solve in comparison. Once you're out of being kidnapped, you knew you were kidnapped, and there was basically just forced use. There was no manipulation. You weren't convinced that this is bad, and so it's really easy to solve. The second kind is much easier to solve, and that's what I typically worked on in the DA's office. And it's work that I'm hopefully going to continue with White House. Anyway, so basically this is the cycle of terrible that happens to someone if they're manipulated into becoming trafficked. Social connections are stripped away, and then once they have a really small support center, basically they'll be beaten or raped or both. And this will happen a little bit. And then the victim will be moved into a really small living quarters, essentially taken away physically from the rest of their friends, family, anyone who will support them. And then the cycle of rape is continued. And this is essentially how this happens. And they just think that they have an abusive boyfriend, which is pretty awful. So, I built a system while at the DA's office that attacks the specifics of this. Basically what it does is, and I'll show you guys in a second in detail, but at a high level, it makes investigating and finding someone who's a victim of sex trafficking easy to find relative to how hard it was before. But this doesn't address the larger societal issues, how someone could become into the situation. So right now we address part 4 of the problem reasonably well, which is good to hear. Once they're already being trafficked, and once you know that this person is a victim, even if they don't necessarily realize it because they've been basically PTSD'd and not believing this is what's happening to them, someone else can recognize the situation and pull them out of it. In stages 1 through 3, we do very little right now. And that's what I want to do with this system. That's why I started this organization, and that's what I'm hoping that I'll convince some of you to come contribute to. Like I said, we have to get them. So anyway, to look at the contributing factors, none of us know right now. literally no one has the data on this, no one's been looking at it, no one knows how to do this. At least not reasonably well, at least from what I understand. So we want to change that. And the way we want to change that is by bringing data into the problem. So one of the contributing factors, and this should be pretty obvious to everyone in the room, is if you're homeless or not. If you're homeless, you don't have a lot of friends, you don't have a family, you don't really have that big a support center. So we're basically already in like stage 2 of the problem. So it's already really easy to cut you off from your small and very like not stable social network. No one's going to miss you if you're gone. Maybe. I hope that's not the case, but you know, it's more likely that that's going to be the case if you're a homeless person. So you know, just between all of these factors, if we can attack it from like looking at how we reduce homelessness, or how we reduce lack of education, or how we reduce, you know, just being like in a state of poverty, then we can attack informally human trafficking, and not just at the sort of, oh god, it's bleeding already, but hey, look, these are the warning signs that might lead to trafficking. So one of the things I did was pull down a whole bunch of time series data on homelessness stuff. So this is one of those time series. And anyway, so I'm going to sort of walk through how one might use the system now, and then explain how this relates to the time series data. And then we'll work through the GIS stuff, and then I'll conclude with some small demonstrations, hopefully, if there's time. Okay, so how one typically starts an investigation within Investigator, which is this tool. And one simply needs to go to a website like Backpage. And maybe someone knows that, so there's a lot of, it's very easy to buy and sell sex, unfortunately, on the internet right now. So basically what one would do is, if you knew that there was a domestic violence charge and you believe there was prostitution involved in that, then that's pretty much how you get sex trafficking in America. So what you would do is you would look at the numbers of people that were essentially in this altercation that you may have gotten because you're an investigator. Then what would happen from there is you would Google for the number, and it would probably land you on a site like Backpage. Then you would go into the escort section. Things are about to get really gross. Please look away if you're shy apart. I'm just going to pull down one ad and load it into our system. Okay, yeah, I got there before the picture. Okay, so now we're going to take this URL and pump it in our system. And it's just as easy. So now, right now, what's happening is a whole bunch of semantic analysis is happening in the background. So I'm pulling out any phone numbers that are in here, any addresses that are in here, any pictures that are in here. I am also doing a whole bunch of NLP stuff, just generally. So I'm adding this to my training set because I know this is an instance of trafficking, and I'm looking for other word choices that might, other words in future scripts that might have a similar writing style to this. And I'll use support vector machines or naive Bayes to sort of do comparison classification at a high level. And then we know what ads to look at for which also might be trafficking, because trappers tend to use the same writing style over and over again. There's a lot more to this, and I don't have time to get into all of it. But anyway, so once someone has some data that we know is related to trafficking, right, which is what we just did. So we assumed that that ad that I just downloaded was an instance of trafficking. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, we knew that happened in New York, say, and we know that, and this is the case number we assigned to it. We would hit start scraping, and what would happen on our server is we would start the scraper, and then I would go out and look for ads with similar data to everything that was in that advertisement. So any similar pictures, any similar words, any similar phone numbers, any similar addresses, and it would create a bounding box for able to find further cases automatically. That's the whole point of this. It's just to make the investigation automatic. You should be able to do it in 2 seconds. You shouldn't have to check your computer every 6 seconds or whatever for new ads or anything like that. So hopefully, is that all clear? I know I talked through that real fast. Is that good? Yeah? All right, cool. So, sorry that I'm rushing so much. Oh, geez. Okay. I have another minute before I have to bounce. So I'm not going to go through everything here. Needless to say, basically we can put this on a map. So this is just an example of some data that we can put on a map, and basically, just sort of like do some further analysis on. So maybe we realize, oh, hey, these 4 cases are related because they were scraped at similar times and then similar locations. Maybe they weren't associated by traffic. So this is how the human element comes into play in the system. The time series component of this, I'll just talk about really briefly. So I don't have time to go through the code, so I'm just going to basically point to an example that I know works. So this is something called impulse response, and it's in the statsmodels library. Impulse response allows you to take in a whole bunch of time series data, look at the correlation between the different time series in your study, and then do analysis automatically. So this gives you a prediction of how variables will co-move together if you change one of the variables. So all the other ones in the system. Assuming all the variables are endogenous, meaning they're all part of the same model, and they're all related or correlated in some way that's not just statistical noise, then you'll be able to actually say, if we reduce poverty by 15% in this area of New York City, for instance, then human trafficking will fall by 17%. Or we'll be able to say something like, if you are able to provide 15 more beds in every homeless shelter in New York City, then human trafficking will fall 12%. You can make these sorts of statistical statements that it can inform policy, and that's essentially what this model does. Okay, unfortunately, I have a flight to catch, which sounds really silly because the whole reason I came here was oh god. Okay, let me see if I can think of anything else to say really quickly. Oh yeah, okay. All right, this will be super fast, and then I'm going to run out the door. Because I'm hoping to get some small sense of wow factor from you guys, I want to show you one of the toys that I made. So we're going to start with Python. All right, so from tools, import star, and this is my address parser. So I don't have time to show you how it works, unfortunately. All the source code is up, and all of the demo is also up as well, so you can check it out later. So this is an address parser. We can do things like this. All right, so let's say I had an exact address in my ad on Backpage. Cool. I can get the lat long out of that, and then I can throw it up on that map that I just showed you. Let's say that I had some free text in front of it, like we do in ads. This is not my actual address. Then we also can get the address out, and look, it's the same, my God. And we can also do this, and this is the thing that I'm really proud of. This is usually how things work. And yet again, we can still get the lat long address. Am I lying? Maybe I'm lying. Let's find out. Oh, what? All right, this happens literally every time I give this talk. I don't know why. I test this code a lot. Look, here's the answer. It's right there. I'm showing you that it works, but for some reason, whenever I decide to demo this on stage, it just decides, nope, you're wrong, dude. You can't do this. You're not allowed. I think I might get relimited. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, so the point is, okay, so it's not going to let me. As soon as I get off this stage, it's going to work again. Whoa! Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. Okay. Everything's fine. Whatever. All right. So this code does work. I swear to God. I wouldn't go to the trouble of typing this out, figuring out. Because look, it's not the same exact. All right. The point is that you can build this. It's really cool. You can use usadress to get all the semantic stuff out. You can use word-to-speech taggers like the Stanford built to get location data out and then get a relative address, which totally works, by the way. And you can also get a whole bunch of other data, like in case in all spells, you can get all the nouns out and then do some other stuff. And this is that whole code put together. And then I use the Google geocoder or GNOME and Salmon geocoder. Not really that much magical going on here. And this is the full object in case you want to just copy paste it into the library. And then this is how I visualize all of that. Hooray, now you all know. Okay, so these are the contributing factors I'm looking at. I didn't really go through the time series demo. I'm sorry, I didn't have time. If you want to help, this is my contact information, which I forgot to push to GitHub. All right, so I will push that to GitHub right now because I'm going to forget. And then I'm literally going to run out the door, otherwise I'm going to miss my flight and the microphone. I didn't say that on stage. I didn't say that on stage. Okay, cool. Pushing this up to GitHub so you know that you have it. So now you don't have a reason for not believing for. Maybe my internet is down. Maybe that's the reason. Okay. Maybe my internet is not down because I got the challenge. Whatever. Fine. I don't care. All right. So I'm gonna get off stage now. But now you all have my contact information. You can go to that GitHub repo, and you can also ask Mod or anyone else here for the conference if they don't know me. All right. I'm running away. Bye, guys.